Welcome, everyone, to Friday 15. My name is Brian Beck. I'm here with Andy Hoare, Master B2B, our weekly podcast, LinkedIn Live, and Global Intergalactic session. Today, we're talking about AI. Andy, welcome to Friday.
Yeah, wow, we're talking about AI. We've never talked about that before.
No, it's either Amazon or AI, seems like this last couple months, right? One or the other, because they're so intertwined, right? Well, this is an exciting session we've got to talk about today, folks. What's happening in the world of Google and AI and how it's relevant to all of you as practitioners in your world of trying to optimize and stay relevant to your customer. You know, Friday 15 is our weekly podcast, and we're excited to be with you today. Now, of course, Andy, as usual, we do our breaking news. And today we're talking about, let's see, AI. OpenAI declares code red as Google threatens their AI lead. Gemini user base has been climbing, Gemini's user base, which is Google's AI, since the August release of an image generator, Nano Banana. And Google said monthly active users grew from 450 million to 650 million in October. So OpenAI is facing pressure from Anthropic, Gemini across the board here, Andy. What's your reaction? I mean, and this is kind of our overall theme here. This was in the Wall Street Journal this week. What do you think?
Yeah, well, they need to call a code red because I think people could argue that they've gotten a little bit distracted. They got tons of partnerships. They still are the biggest dog in the race. We'll see some numbers around this. That they have 800 million active users, right? So when Gemini goes from 450, like halfway there, to 650, the trajectory doesn't look so great for OpenAI. And we were talking before the show here that there's an interesting analogy here.
Yeah.
Is OpenAI, is ChatGPT going to be the Netscape of the browser space? Because there's so many interesting parallels. They had a ton of money. They were the first mover. They were the consumer product, right? And they were up against Internet Explorer, which was offered by Microsoft, going back in the history books here, who had far greater resources, a larger install base. And what ended up happening was Microsoft rolled over on them and Netscape really sort of disappeared. Could that happen to OpenAI? Different Friday 15, perhaps.
Maybe. OpenAI raised $58 billion, Andy. $58 billion. But guess how much they're spending? $50 billion a year. Oh, my goodness.
On a market that people kind of estimate is in the hundreds of billions of dollars in terms of universe. When, if you think about it, I think the number I've seen is that basically these AI companies are spending something in the order of like $3 trillion on infrastructure. So they're spending $3 trillion on a market that right now has a universe and a ceiling of 300 billion. Okay, do the math there. 3 trillion, 300 billion. Either the $3 trillion number has to come down, or, and this is what everybody's betting on, the $300 billion number is going to go up because it's going to spread throughout the organization and AIify everything. So that total available universe has got to increase, or we're looking at a bust.
All right. Well, we'll see. I think it's going to evolve. But Andy, we had Nostradamus on our predictions webcast last week, where we talked about our 2026 predictions. And guess, of course, was all about AI. But Nostradamus, Mr. Justin Rinaldi from Safety Speed Manufacturing, did I say that right? I never get his company name right. Anyway, he said Google finally has a real competitor. That's what he said. Is Google winning or losing the AI space? And that's our topic today. How is Google going to fare in this world? I mean, for years, Andy, we would spend all of our time, as practitioners working on SEO, search engine optimization, making sure we were relevant for Google's natural search algorithms and making sure we showed up high in the search results. Well, it's all changed now. And, is Google going to win? And where do you put your dollars and efforts? If you're a practitioner, where do you put your efforts now? How do you manage this? And, what happens to Google is a big element here. It's important. So what's going on with Google? I mean, we look at their stock price. What's going on here? It's crazy.
Well,
the market likes them.
Yeah. So below the radar for a lot of people who aren't stock watchers, Google's price, it's Alphabet, right?
Yeah.
Has doubled in just the last 6 months, which is hard for a company to do when it's worth $1.9 trillion to double to $3.8 trillion in 6 months.
Wow.
Why? But,
Right.
I thought, all right, well, maybe the entire market has been going up. All of the tech
Mm.
market has been rising. And so this is just mirroring a trend. Oops, Microsoft stock has gone essentially sideways.
Right.
It has gone nowhere. It's gone up, I think it says 2%, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. 1.08%. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's barely gone up, and Microsoft's been a high performer. So it isn't the industry at large. It is Google specifically. And if you look at the
Right.
next slide,
Yeah.
if you just isolate for the last 2 months or so, look at that increase.
Wow.
It was at the 40% level like 2.5 months ago, and then it's up at 75%
Yep.
in the
Yep.
last 2 to 3 months. So what's happened in the last couple of months? Well, you mentioned it at the very beginning. They released Nano Banana, which is their
Right.
image generator, and very importantly, Gemini 3.0, which has done pretty well, I think you could see. If you look at a couple of slides, this is a thing from just a couple of months ago. Which of the following AI tools have you used in the past 30 days? It's showing a pretty distinct trend here. OpenAI, again, still in the lead, but look who's in second place.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Hmm.
and these are usage numbers. On the next slide, you'll see that, not only is that the case, but also people are spending more time on Gemini. So this is just from like a month and a half ago. Gemini users spend more time chatting than those rival chatbots. Look at the red line. It's above ChatGPT and Claude.
Yeah.
So people are using it more. They're spending more time on it.
And for
This
those of
is
you, yeah.
a
Yeah.
bad trend for anybody other than Google, I think.
Well, those of you listening, it shows that Gemini, people are spending I guess about 7 minutes chatting per visit versus ChatGPT, which is down closer to 6 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, just a utility thing. Is that because, Andy, though, playing devil's advocate, it's less efficient?
Yeah.
Or is it just engaging? It's that,
Or it takes longer. It's
well, that's
possible it
the other
takes
thing,
longer,
right?
right?
It could take longer also. So we declared on our predictions, I said, hey, Google is not relevant. They have to eat their own business model. Their ad revenue is going away. These new competitors. Nostradamus told us they finally have a real competitor. And Mr. Dan Heck from CDE Fasteners said, you guys are crazy. Well, me anyway. He said,
Just you.
just me. He said, I've used ChatGPT every day for 3 years. Just spent 2 hours on Gemini 3. I'm not going back. The leap is insane. Reasoning, speed, images, video, everything is sharper and faster. It feels like the world just changed again, right? So that's actually a
That
quote
wasn't
from
Dan. That
I
was
know,
Mark
Mark
Benioff.
Benioff, right? Yeah, he's
Dan
saying,
said something very similar, like,
yeah,
you guys, like you said, you're crazy if you're not using it.
yeah,
It's not. It has something called a context window. It was also in that note, is that Gemini's context window is, to put it in perspective, it is like 5 times the size of Claude,
wow,
and like, yeah, basically 5 times the size of ChatGPT. I mean, it can take more information in. It's less expensive. It's more efficient with tokens,
yep,
checking all these boxes. And I think there's this test that we were talking about earlier. I think
yeah,
it's a vending machine test where
yeah,
they tell an AI, hey, how would you run a vending machine business? And it's kind of like the Turing test for these AI bots. And apparently Gemini has done much better, the most recent release. Now, let's be fair here. These things come and go.
yeah,
ChatGPT declared a code red. Maybe their next iteration comes out and blows Gemini away.
yep,
But there are some bigger issues at stake here. And if you see on the next slide, this is what's happened in the last year. Again, for those who can't see this, it's basically AI traffic share.
yeah,
And a year ago, OpenAI ChatGPT was like
killing it.
about 80%, right?
Yep,
And remaining 20 or maybe 85%, the remaining 15% or so was split among 7 or 8 other big players like Gemini. Remember DeepSeek, the Chinese
mhm,
company? Where did that go?
mhm,
Grok, Claude, you
yep.
know.
But they're
But if you
tiny. Yeah,
Yeah, but if you fast forward to today, again, ChatGPT is still in the lead, 75%, but that number has come down from, say, 85% to 75%. And the big winner here has been Gemini.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it does beg the question, what's really happening here? And so you and I thought, okay, let's take a look at this, because this does impact B2B, because B2B companies are using these
Of
technologies.
course. Yeah, yeah,
How much is this going to change things? And so we put together kind of a pros and cons list, and we should have a conversation about this one. All right. Will Google win the LLM game? So basically, the trajectory shows that it's doing pretty well.
Right.
And what are the arguments for and against? So what are the arguments for, Brian?
Well, for AI chatbots are in Google's DNA, right? And they have just plain and simple more data to train on. This is the same thing that you look at Meta, and there's some interesting statistics about Meta, but also Amazon and others. There's just more data and more storage space. I mean, they just have more capability, more infrastructure. But I think the big thing, Andy, is their install base, right? I mean, the amount of people that already have the browser, the capability, the familiarity with Google, et cetera. That, I mean, we talked about this pregame. That is really their advantage, right? Versus anything else. Versus an OpenAI, which is, it's a new tool. It's something different, and it's a different place for people to go. Google already has, for example, on the AEO, agentic engine optimization or answer engine optimization, they already have people going to Google, right? It's already, the traffic is already there. They're serving the answers within the results. There's no change necessary for the people. And if those results are as good or now maybe better than going to a chat GPT, that's the base is there. It's the same. It's the analogous argument to Amazon moving from Amazon consumer to Amazon business. The user is already there. They're already comfortable with using the path. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think the interesting part with Google, though, is it's a sword that cuts both ways, because Google has a cannibalization issue. They now have to grapple with zero click.
Zero click. Yeah, right.
So their model before, as we all know, is you do a search and it shows you organic results, which ostensibly are the safe ones that are unpolluted by advertising. And then you get the sponsored results, which is where they make their money with what they call the Chinese math. 1/10 of 1% of all the people who look at a page will pay for something, right? So that's how you subsidize it. Well, with Gemini, they just give you an answer.
Right.
There's no sponsored result. In fact, I can't remember the last time I've looked at a sponsored result. I don't remember the last time I looked at an organic result. When I go there, gives me the answer. That's called a zero click search. So how is Google going to monetize that? That's the big question for Google.
Oh man, it's advertising. It's coming, man.
It is, but will it be embedded in that? I mean, there's going to be a transition period. And it reminds me a lot, not to overextend the analogies here, what Netflix did. Remember, Netflix had to cannibalize itself because it was doing the DVD by mail,
right,
and then it had to go to digital. Well, it had to lose that first business in order to gain the second business. The problem is Google's a publicly traded company. 95% of their revenue comes from search. They're going to have to upend their own model. So that's the big question mark for Google. But
yeah,
ChatGPT has some advantages here, despite the things we talked about earlier. They had a head start. They are perceived to be the winner in the race, although that could go the Netscape route. And let's not forget, Google does have other businesses to attend to. It isn't just the search thing.
Right.
They're in the cloud space, the Pixel phone, Android, whereas OpenAI, at least right now, does one thing. So it could be that Code Red gets them refocused on the one thing they do well, and they could roll back over. And in 2 months, we could be talking about, ChatGPT 5.4 or whatever the hell it would be is even better. Who knows?
Well, here's the thing, Andy. ChatGPT, OpenAI does not have to deal with that conundrum of when and how to introduce advertising.
Yes.
I am sure that at Google, they are spending Alphabet. They're spending lots of time thinking, how do I monetize this? How do I introduce? I mean, this has to be a raging debate at Google right now. Like, how and when do we do this? Because as you said,
ChatGPT?
No, I'm talking about Google. Introduce both of them, really.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
But what I'm saying, ChatGPT's got its, its subscription model, but Google, how and when do I introduce advertising into this? And it's a huge risk, because if they do that wrong, everybody goes, stays.
Well, what does that remind you of? Doesn't that sound like Netflix versus linear TV? Because I don't know about you, but I pay for Netflix, and all of a sudden I'm watching every show with advertising in it, and then I have to pay to get rid of that. That's the problem that Google's going to have, right?
does Google become Blockbuster, right? And they never change. They never anyway. This is fascinating. It's changing.
That is the big unknown. You're right. Over the next couple of years, is how do both of them grapple with advertising?
Well, does ChatGPT or OpenAI even need to introduce advertising? Could they get away? Yeah, probably.
They will, because they're not going to get enough subscriptions to pay for that.
I don't know.
And then, unlike Google, where everybody's used to Google having advertising there, they don't have to explain that. How is OpenAI going to explain that one? Hey, guys, we were the pure ones. We decided not to do advertising because we wanted you guys to get the right answer. But now we're doing advertising.
It's all about the customer, man. It's all about delivering value to the end customer. That
could be a harder fall. It could be a harder fall for ChatGPT.
Maybe
than it would be for Google, where people go, of course, Google's in the advertising business, but oh wait, ChatGPT is now? I didn't expect that.
I'll bet ChatGPT is waiting to see or OpenAI is waiting to see what Google will do here, right? And then react to it. I don't know. If I were them, I'd be waiting. You pick the first move, Google. You do it first, because we want to see what happens, right?
Yeah, but the problem with that is that Google can wait them out, because Google's got tens of billions of dollars and an install base. Look, the reality is, and this is a little known fact, Google was first to this. Do you remember back in 2018, this made news because this guy is an engineer at Google who said, we've achieved sentience, meaning that the bot is now running on its own. And he released this blog or something like that. And Google had to say, no, the guy's a kook. He doesn't represent us. He got fired, etc. Google had the first version of this and they buried it. Why?
Wow.
Because it threatened their search business. Now, some would argue that it wasn't ready yet, but Google was the first one to do this. They buried it. And then when ChatGPT came along, all of a sudden, within like 2 months, Google had its own bot. Where did that come from?
Right.
I can tell you where it came from. They had it. They pulled it out of the back room and said, oh, yeah, we've had this for years.
It may be, man.
But now it's a monetization game. So, so this is our opinion. But we can't get through this without actually asking Gemini and ChatGPT what they think.
Right, of course. So you did that. You asked them what they say. Who's going to win? What they say.
So Gemini said the choice between Gemini and ChatGPT depends on user needs. And I think this was a backhanded compliment. Gemini may be favored by users in the Google ecosystem who need research and data analysis capabilities, while ChatGPT may be the top choice for creative projects and nuanced conversations.
Yeah, okay.
So isn't that like, well, we're the real solution and they're the solution of your art friends?
That's the idiot in the bar sitting in the corner by themselves drinking alone. That's ChatGPT. Okay, and what did ChatGPT say?
Well, funny enough, you can tell by the answer where they really think. There's no clear winner yet between Google Gemini and ChatGPT, but I can offer a brief comparison to help explain where Gemini might have an edge and where it might not. But I got to tell you, when I put this in here yesterday, I was debating whether to put quotes around this. And it occurred to me, I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't a human. Am I quoting an AI bot?
Yes. So we also had to ask, of course, so that's fascinating. So we ask ask the AI what they think of themselves. And then we had to ask, of course, our community. And of course, we said, is AI killing or supercharging Google's search business? And of course, overwhelmingly, everyone said supercharging. Google's winning 86% versus, the pure play LLMs like OpenAI, ChatGPT. So, clearly the industry, at least as our community, believes that Google is going to win this game, Andy. So fascinating topic. We're going to keep watching this. Obviously, it's so ingrained in everything we're doing, and it has implications for marketing, for process, for efficiency, for how you do business, for your own site search, for everything. And this AI stuff is so fascinating. So we're going to keep our eye on it. Even your organization, who you have in your organization, who you hire, and everything. Even my son, my goodness, my son has to learn how to use this stuff. My SON, not SUN. So everyone, we had a couple announcements here. We're past our Friday 15. I just want to make a couple quick announcements before we wrap for the day. First off, folks, Nexus. Okay, you're trying to figure out all this AI stuff. run your business at the same time, your foundational elements, everything else. Master B2B Nexus is a program which is there for you. It is a on-call subscription service that provides on-demand advice from experts for your decision making. We provide expert advice exclusively for B2B e-commerce executives. And we have a panel of folks who are fantastic ex-practitioners, as well as a whole large database of peers that we connect you with to answer your questions quickly. It's a concierge service. Go to masterb2b.com. Take a look at this Nexus service. You can find out more information there. Also, folks, our Mindshare Summit, our fourth, Andy, annual, crazy, 4 times now, March 10th and 11th next year at the University of Chicago, the Booth School. It's at the Gleacher Center right in the heart of Chicago. Fantastic location. We're going to have 150 to 200 people there this year. It's going to be great. Really excited about the turnout. We've already got a lot of folks signed up for that. And finally, I want to remind folks that our Friday 15 is available as a podcast on your favorite podcast service. Please give us a review, a nice positive one. Yay. That helps a lot. Thank you all for listening. Andy, any final words before we wrap this Friday 15 or 20?
Yeah, this is not a theoretical debate about what impact AI is going to have, because it reminds me of what happened 100 and some odd years ago with electricity.
Yeah.
People have used that analogy. Like, how did electricity change the way we live? It changed everything, right?
Yeah. Right.
But it didn't change how businesses operate. It didn't change how humans interact necessarily, but it did change every aspect of our lives in certain respects. And I think that's what we're talking about here. B2B is going to be forever changed by AI. The question is how.
Exactly. So, Andy, leaving us with some hope for humanity. Thank you, Andy. Very much appreciated. Folks, we will see you next week on our next Friday 15.